You knew she was alive, the little girl told the millionaire, but when they discover the truth, everyone is in shock. Leave a comment telling me what you thought of this story with a rating from 0 to 10 and mention which city you're watching from. I really want to know if you liked my story and get to know you better, so please subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The purr of the BMW 330i's engine echoed through the Whole Foods Market parking lot as Benjamin Taylor shut off the vehicle. It was a warm March afternoon in Aspen, Colorado, and the 42-year-old former fighter adjusted his sunglasses before stepping out of the car. His weekly grocery run always happened on Thursdays, a meticulous habit he'd kept since becoming the host of the local TV show Fight and Life. Benjamin was walking toward the entrance when a desperate scream cut through the air like a sharp blade. You knew she was alive. You knew she was alive. The voice was childish, but carried an intensity that made everyone in the parking lot stop and stare. A grimy little girl, looking about 4 years old, ran toward him with her arms outstretched. Her brown hair was tangled, her little pink outfit torn and stained with dirt, but it was her eyes that nearly made Benjamin's heart stop beating. Those green eyes were identical to his sister Valerie's, who had disappeared 10 years ago. "Mister, please!" The girl grabbed Benjamin's leg with a strength surprising for her size. "You knew she was alive. Aunt Zenaida said you had to know." Benjamin knelt, his hands trembling slightly. "How do you know me, little one? What's your name?" "I'm Iris." The child wiped her nose on the back of her dirty hand. "Aunt Zenaida talked a lot about Benny. You're Benny, right?" The world seemed to spin. Only one person in Benjamin's life had ever called him Benny, his younger sister Valerie, the affectionate nickname she had used throughout their childhood until she was 25 and vanished without a trace during a business trip to expand the family's martial arts academy. "Where is this Aunt Zenaida now?" Benjamin asked, trying to stay calm as he noticed the curious onlookers starting to gather. "She got sick in the head, and the men in white coats took her away." Iris sobbed. "I've been alone for 3 days. I'm hungry." Benjamin looked around, noting the judgmental stares from people. A dirty, clearly abandoned child clinging to a well-dressed man. The situation could easily be misinterpreted, but something in those green eyes stopped him from simply calling the authorities. "Did you know my sister?" he asked softly. Iris nodded vigorously. "She had a mark right here on her knee." The girl touched her own leg, and she always sang that song about the yellow butterfly when she was sad. Benjamin's blood ran cold. The scar on her right knee was from when Valerie fell off her bike at age 7. And the yellow butterfly song was a tune only the Taylor family knew, a composition by their own father. No stranger could know these intimate details. "Come with me," he said, taking Iris's small hand. "We're going to figure this out." The drive to his mansion in the Starwood neighborhood was tense. Iris chattered non-stop, sharing details about Aunt Zenaida, who had cared for her on a small farm on the outskirts of town. She described a middle-aged woman who worked cleaning hospitals and cried every night looking at an old photograph. When they arrived at Benjamin's mansion, a modern 2-story property with elaborate gardens, Iris stopped at the entrance and her eyes widened. "It's exactly the same." "The same as what?" "As the house Aunt Zenaida showed me in the picture. She said you lived in a beautiful house just like this." Martha Taylor appeared at the door, elegant in her beige linen suit, but her expression changed drastically upon seeing the dirty child next to her husband. "Benjamin, what is this?" "It's a long story," he replied, guiding Iris inside. "I need to talk to you." The spacious living room, decorated in neutral tones with modern furniture, made Iris run to the window overlooking the garden. The beige sofa was over there. She pointed to the exact spot where the furniture used to be. And there was a glass coffee table right here. Her precision was disturbing. Martha looked at her husband with a mixture of confusion and alarm. During their 5 years of marriage, she knew Benjamin's quirks, his need for control, his obsession with keeping up appearances. Bringing a street child home was not something he would do impulsively. She knows details about Valerie that no one else could, Benjamin explained in a low voice as Iris explored the room. Things only our family knew. Benjamin, this is crazy. You can't just bring a strange child into our home. What if she has a family? What if someone is looking for her? Iris turned to them, her green eyes shining with unshed tears. I don't have anyone anymore. Aunt Zenaida was all I had, and now she's in the crazy place. That night, after Martha reluctantly prepared a bath and found some old clothes for Iris, Benjamin stayed in his office, trying to process what was happening. The child was sleeping in the guest room, exhausted after days on the streets. His cell phone rang. It was Everett Columbus, his partner on the television show, and a man known for his paranoia about public image. Benjamin, I need to talk to you urgently. I heard you were seen at the supermarket today with a strange child. This could hurt our advertising contracts. Everett, it's none of your business. Of course it is. Your reputation affects our show. If a scandal breaks, we could lose sponsors. You need to resolve this situation quickly. Benjamin hung up irritated, but Everett had planted a seed of worry. What if there were legal consequences? What if someone accused him of kidnapping? In the guest room, Iris tossed and turned in her sleep, murmuring inaudible words. Every now and then, she would call out for Mommy in a voice so sad it would break anyone's heart. Benjamin stayed awake all night, staring out his office window at the mountains surrounding Aspen. 10 years had passed since Valerie's disappearance. 10 years of private investigations that led nowhere, of sleepless nights, of guilt for not insisting she not take that trip alone. Now, a child had appeared in his life, bringing information that only Valerie could have shared. But how was that possible? Could Valerie really be alive? And if she was, where had she been all these years? When the sun rose, Benjamin had made a decision that would change everything. No matter the risks or consequences, he would uncover the truth about Iris and his missing sister. The first 2 weeks with Iris in the mansion brought a completely new routine for the Taylor family. Martha watched with growing concern as her husband devoted himself entirely to the child, cancelling professional engagements and spending hours talking with her about details from the past that only Valerie could know. She drew our old house from memory. Benjamin showed his wife a notebook filled with childish scribbles. Look here, even the exact location of the coffee table in the living room is correct. Martha held the drawing with trembling hands. The precision was unsettling. Iris had drawn not only the furniture layout, but also small details like the potted plant in the window and the shelf of martial arts trophies Benjamin had won in his youth. Benjamin, this isn't normal. A 4-year-old shouldn't have these memories of places she's never been. Unless someone told her, he replied, his eyes shining with desperate hope. Someone who knew our house in minute detail. Meanwhile, Everett Columbus intensified his pressure on his partner. During a meeting at the show's production office, he could no longer contain his irritation. Benjamin, you're losing focus. Our ratings have dropped 15% in the last 2 weeks because you're distracted. And these rumors about a child living in your house are reaching the sponsors' ears. What rumors? People saw you with her at the supermarket. Others saw you at the park. A dirty child, clearly from a humble background, being cared for by a TV host. It raises questions. Benjamin clenched his fists. What kind of questions? The kind that can destroy careers. Everett answered coldly. I need you to resolve this situation before it gets out of control. That afternoon, Benjamin decided to take an action he had been postponing. He drove to St. Vincent's Psychiatric Hospital on the outskirts of Aspen, determined to find Zenaida, Iris's mysterious caretaker. The white three-story building rose against the mountains like a silent fortress. In the inpatient ward, Benjamin spoke with the head nurse, Dr. Patricia Lewis, a 50-year-old woman with tired eyes who had seen too much suffering within those walls. Zenaida Perry was admitted a week ago, she explained, leafing through a file. Acute psychotic episode. She arrived here screaming about a lost child and talking to people who weren't there. Can I see her? She has moments of lucidity, but they are rare, and when she is lucid, she spends most of her time crying. Benjamin was led to a common room where recovering patients could receive visitors. Zenaida was sitting in a blue armchair, staring out the window with a vacant expression. She was a thin woman, about 50 years old, with graying hair and hands calloused from hard work. Zenaida. Benjamin approached slowly. My name is Benjamin Taylor. Do you know a little girl named Iris? The woman's eyes turned to him slowly. For a moment there was no recognition. Then, as if a light switched on in her mind, she grabbed his arm with desperate strength. Benny, you came! I knew you'd come for the girl. Benjamin's heart raced. How do you know me? How do you know they call me Benny? She talked about you every day, Zenaida whispered, looking around paranoidly. Your sister. She remembered you even when she couldn't remember anything else. Is Valerie alive? The question came out as a choked cry. Zenaida nodded, tears streaming down her face. I took care of her for years on a small farm in Antlers Valley, but she wasn't the same after the accident. What accident? The car, on the road to Glenwood Springs. It was terrible. I found her on the side of the road, all beaten up, didn't even know her own name. I took her to my farm and cared for her as best I could. Benjamin clung to Zenaida's words like a drowning man clings to a piece of wood. Where is she now? At the farm, always at the farm. But she doesn't remember things right. Lives in a different world. Thinks Iris is a doll she got as a gift. Is Iris her daughter? Zenaida hesitated, her lucidity beginning to fade again. The girl just appeared. Valerie was pregnant when I found her, but she didn't remember anything, not the father, not how it happened. At that moment, a nurse approached. Sir, visiting hours are ending, and Miss Perry needs to take her medication. Benjamin held Zenaida's hands. Where is this farm? I need to find my sister. Antlers Valley, Blue House, Broken Gate. She murmured before the medication began to take effect. On the way back home, Benjamin drove in a state of shock. Valerie was alive. After 10 years of fruitless searches, of private investigators finding nothing, of sleepless nights imagining the worst, his sister was just a few miles away. But Zenaida's words about the accident and memory loss haunted him. If Valerie didn't remember anything, would she recognize him? And why had Zenaida cared for her alone all these years, without seeking proper medical help? When he got home, he found Martha in the kitchen preparing dinner, with Iris sitting on the counter, helping to cut vegetables with a child-safe knife. The domestic scene contrasted dramatically with the emotional storm raging in his mind. "Daddy, Benny!" Iris jumped off the counter and ran to hug him. The affectionate nickname she had started using made Benjamin's heart clench every time. "How was the hospital?" Martha asked, noticing her husband's disturbed expression. Benjamin looked at Iris, playing on the living room floor, and decided not to say anything yet. He needed to process the information, and most importantly, he needed to find his sister before making any decisions. "I'll talk to you later," he replied, picking Iris up. "Now I want to know how our little artist's day was." Iris smiled and showed him a new drawing. This time she had scribbled a small farm with a blue house, a woman with long hair sitting under a tree, and a small child playing beside her. In the corner of the page, in crooked letters, she had written, "Mommy and me." Benjamin felt his legs go weak. Iris had drawn exactly what Zenaida had described, a small farm with a blue house where his sister lived, lost in her own fragmented memories. "Where did you see this place, Iris?" "It's where I lived before Aunt Zenaida got sick," she answered naturally. "Mommy always sits under the big tree. She doesn't like to go inside when the sun is strong." That night, after Iris had fallen asleep, Benjamin told Martha everything. She listened in silence, processing each word with growing disbelief. "You're telling me that your sister, who disappeared 10 years ago, is alive on a farm a few miles from here, raising a daughter she doesn't remember having?" "That's exactly it." Martha stood up and began pacing the room. "Benjamin, this is impossible to believe. I know how it sounds, but the evidence..." "What evidence?" "The story of a woman hospitalized for a psychotic break and the drawings of a 4-year-old child." Benjamin took his wife's hands. "Martha, you've seen the details Iris knows, things only Valerie knew. And now she's drawn the exact place Zenaida described. What if it's all an elaborate coincidence? What if these two are trying to take advantage of you? For what? Iris is just a child who could be used by unscrupulous adults." The argument was interrupted by the sound of crying from the guest room. They both rushed there to find Iris sitting up in bed, trembling and calling for Mommy between sobs. "I had a bad dream," she said, holding her little arms out to Benjamin. "Mommy was all alone under the tree and I couldn't get to her." Benjamin picked her up and felt his heart break. Regardless of all the doubts and uncertainties, there was a real child here, suffering from the absence of her mother. "Tomorrow, we'll go look for her," he whispered in Iris's ear. "I promise we'll find your mommy." And so, as he rocked the little girl back to sleep, Benjamin made a decision that would change all their lives forever. The morning dawned overcast as Benjamin drove along the winding road that led to Antlers Valley. Iris was in the back seat, lulled into a restless sleep, while Martha remained silent, torn between curiosity and fear of what they might find. "There!" Iris suddenly woke up and pointed to a dirt track that opened up between the trees. "That's the way we used to go home." Benjamin turned off the main road and followed the narrow track, his heart beating faster and faster. The dense vegetation gradually opened up to reveal a small farm with a faded blue house, exactly as Zenaida had described. In the yard, under a leafy mango tree, a female figure was sitting in a wicker chair. Even from a distance, Benjamin immediately recognized the silhouette. It was Valerie. "Mommy!" Iris screamed, trying to open the car door before he had even come to a complete stop. The woman under the tree looked up. She had the same brown hair as Valerie, but longer and streaked with grey. Her face, once full of life and determination, now wore a vacant, childlike expression. She was wearing a simple floral dress and holding a rag doll in her arms. Benjamin got out of the car, his legs trembling. 10 years of searching, 10 years of nightmares, and there was his sister alive but clearly transformed by time and trauma. "Valerie." His voice came out as a whisper. She looked at him without any sign of recognition. "Did you come to get Iris? She was lost. I looked everywhere, but I couldn't find my little doll." Iris ran to her mother and threw herself into her arms. "Mommy, I'm back. I missed you so much." Valerie smiled, but it was the innocent smile of a child. "My talking doll. You were playing hide and seek, weren't you?" Benjamin approached slowly, his heart shattering as he realized his sister's mental state. "Valerie, it's me, your brother Benjamin. Benny." She tilted her head to the side, like a child trying to understand something complicated. Benny? That's a nice name. Do you know Benny? He was my big brother. Very strong, knew how to fight. I am Benny, Benjamin insisted, kneeling before her. Do you remember the academy, the training we used to do together? Valerie frowned, a shadow of confusion passing through her eyes. For a moment, it seemed like a memory was trying to surface, but then she shook her head and went back to playing with Iris. Martha watched the scene from a distance, shocked by Valerie's condition. The woman Benjamin had always described as determined and independent now seemed like a fragile, broken version of herself. We need to get her to a doctor, Martha whispered to her husband. She needs proper care. No! Iris clung to her mother tightly. I don't want them to take Mommy away again. Valerie stroked her daughter's hair. No one is going to separate us, my little doll. Aunt Zenaida promised we would always be together. Benjamin felt a lump in his throat. How could he explain to a fragmented mind that Zenaida was hospitalized? How could he make Valerie understand she needed help without traumatizing her even more? Valerie, he tried again. Where have you been all these years? Why didn't you come home? She looked at him with genuine confusion. This is my home. I've always lived here with Aunt Zenaida and my little doll. Why would I go anywhere else? In the following weeks, Benjamin established a routine of daily visits to the farm. He brought groceries, tried to talk to Valerie about the past, and observed the peculiar relationship between her and Iris. His sister treated her daughter like a living doll, playing with her for hours, but showing no typical maternal instinct. During one of these visits, Benjamin found documents hidden in a drawer in the house. Among old papers and overdue bills, he discovered Iris's birth certificate. The mother's name was clearly identified as Valerie Santos Taylor, but the father's field was blank. Zenaida never knew who the father was, he muttered to himself, examining the document. That night, at home, Benjamin received a call that would change everything. It was Robert Mendez, the family's lawyer, whom he had discreetly contacted to investigate Valerie's legal situation. Benjamin, I have some disturbing news. I hired an investigator to look into the period of your sister's disappearance. We found out she was treated at Glenwood Springs Regional Hospital in March 2014 after a serious car accident. And why did no one contact us? She arrived without documents, in a coma. When she woke up, she couldn't remember anything. She was classified as an unidentified patient. But here's the problem. The records show she was discharged into the care of a doctor named Alistair Perry. The surname made Benjamin freeze. Perry? Like Zenaida Perry? Exactly. Dr. Alistair is Zenaida's brother, a neurologist specializing in brain trauma. Apparently, he took over Valerie's case in an irregular manner. Irregular how? Though there are no official records of her treatment after discharge, it's as if she simply disappeared from the medical system. Benjamin felt anger rising in his chest. Are you telling me this doctor knew who my sister was and didn't contact us? It's worse than that. I have evidence that Dr. Alistair forged documents to keep Valerie under his care without legal authorization. And there's something else. What? Dr. Alistair was fired from the hospital in 2015 for inappropriate conduct with vulnerable patients. There are unproven allegations that he sexually exploited women with mental disabilities. The phone almost slipped from Benjamin's hands. The implications were horrific. If Dr. Alistair had taken advantage of Valerie in her vulnerable state, it would explain the pregnancy and Iris's unknown paternity. Where is this man now? He maintains a private practice in downtown Aspen. Benjamin, you need to be very careful. If my suspicions are correct, this man is dangerous. The next morning, Benjamin arrived at the farm earlier than usual and found a scene that perplexed him. Valerie was sitting on the ground in the yard, pulling up flowers and muttering something incomprehensible. Iris was playing beside her, imitating her mother's gestures. "Valerie, is everything okay?" She looked up, and for a fleeting moment, Benjamin saw a flash of lucidity he hadn't noticed before. "Benny?" Her voice came out different, more mature. You're really here?" His heart raced. "Yes, I'm here. Do you remember me?" Valerie squeezed her eyes shut, as if fighting against intense pain. "Sometimes. Sometimes I remember things, but it's hard, like there's a fog in my mind." "What do you remember?" "I remember you teaching me how to punch the heavy bag. I remember the song we used to sing in the car." Tears began to stream down her face. "But when I try to remember more, everything goes dark." Iris stopped playing and watched her mother with concern. "Is Mommy sad?" Valerie quickly reverted to her childlike state, smiling at her daughter. "No, little doll. Mommy's happy, always happy when you're here." Benjamin realized that his sister's moments of lucidity were rare and apparently painful for her. It was as if her mind was protecting itself, keeping her in a childlike state to avoid confronting deep traumas. "Valerie," he said softly, "do you remember a doctor, Dr. Alistair?" The reaction was immediate and terrifying. Valerie began to tremble violently, her eyes filled with terror, and she shrank back against the tree like a frightened animal. "No, don't say that name. He can't find me here. He promised he'd leave me alone." Iris started to cry. Scared by her mother's reaction, Benjamin cursed himself for mentioning the name. "It's okay," he said, hugging them both. "No one is going to hurt you. I'm here to protect you." But as he comforted his sister and his niece, a terrible certainty formed in his mind. Dr. Alistair was not only responsible for Valerie's condition, he was the man who had abused her and fathered Iris. And from his sister's terrified reactions, he still posed a real threat. Benjamin knew the time had come to confront the man who had destroyed his family's life. But he also knew that in doing so, he would be starting a war that could put both Valerie and Iris in even greater danger. 2 weeks after the episode with Dr. Alistair's name, Benjamin was in his office when he received a call that made his blood run cold. It was Martha, and her voice was trembling with fear. "Benjamin, you need to come home now. There's a man here who wants to talk about Iris. He says he's her father." The world seemed to stop. Benjamin dropped everything and drove home at a dangerous speed, his heart pounding in his chest. When he arrived, he found Martha in the living room, with Iris hiding behind her, while a well-dressed, distinguished-looking man of about 60 was sitting on the sofa. "Mr. Taylor?" The man stood up with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm Dr. Alistair Perry. I believe we have a lot to discuss." Benjamin felt his fists clench. "How did you find us?" Aspen is a small town. It wasn't hard to discover that a local TV host had informally adopted a child matching my daughter's description. "Your daughter?" Dr. Alistair took some papers from his pocket. "I have documents here proving my paternity of Iris Santos Perry. I've come to take her." "Daddy Benny," Iris whispered, clinging to Benjamin's leg. "I don't like that man. He scares me." Benjamin picked the girl up, instinctively protecting her. "What documents are these?" "The birth certificate doesn't mention a father." "Documents that prove I cared for Valerie during her pregnancy and after Iris's birth. As the doctor responsible for her case, I have legal rights to the child." "Rights you obtained by abusing a mentally disabled woman." Dr. Alistair maintained his composure, but his eyes glinted with anger. "Be careful with your accusations, Mr. Taylor. You have no way of proving anything you're insinuating." At that moment, Martha approached Benjamin. Over the last few weeks, she had developed a genuine affection for Iris. Initially reluctant, she now saw the girl as part of the family she and Benjamin had never managed to build. "The girl stays here," Martha said with a firmness that surprised everyone. "She's happy with us." "Mrs. Taylor," Dr. Alistair replied with false cordiality, I understand the emotional attachment, but the law is clear. Iris needs to be with her biological family. And Valerie? Where does she fit into this? Benjamin questioned. The doctor's face hardened slightly. Valerie is under my medical care. Her mental state doesn't allow her to properly care for her daughter. Because you keep her medicated, so she remains vulnerable. Dr. Alistair stood up, the mask of cordiality finally slipping. Mr. Taylor, I came here in an attempt to resolve this amicably. But if you prefer, I can handle this through the courts. I have all the necessary documentation. After the doctor left, Benjamin immediately called Robert Mendez. The situation had become a race against time. They needed to act before Dr. Alistair could get a court order. Robert, I need you to prepare a paternity challenge and a formal accusation against this man, and I need you to do it today. Benjamin, without concrete evidence of abuse, it will be difficult. Then we'll get the evidence. That night, Benjamin made the riskiest decision of his life. He drove to the farm in Antlers Valley, determined to get Valerie to remember the truth about Dr. Alistair. He found his sister in the same place as always, sitting under the mango tree. But this time, there was something different in her eyes, a lucidity he hadn't seen before. "Benny," she said before he even spoke, "I knew you would come. I dreamed about you last night. Valerie, I need you to tell me about Dr. Alistair. I need the truth." She trembled but didn't panic as before. "It's hard to remember. He gave me medicine that made everything confusing. Try for Iris." Valerie closed her eyes, fighting against the fog in her mind. "I remember the hospital. He said he would take care of me. But then it was different. He would come at night and—" She couldn't finish, but the tears that streamed down her face said everything. "He told me no one would come looking for me because I had no family. He said I was crazy and that no one would believe me." Benjamin felt rage burn in his chest. "He lied. I never stopped looking for you. When Iris was born, I thought he would leave me alone, but he kept coming. He said the girl was his too, and that one day he would come for her." "Is that why you pretended not to recognize me?" Valerie nodded. "He said if I tried to run away or tell anyone, he would hurt Iris. I preferred to pretend I was crazy than to take that risk." The revelation changed everything. Valerie wasn't just suffering from memory problems. She was pretending to be worse than she really was to protect her daughter. "Valerie, you need to testify against him. It's the only way to protect Iris." "He'll say I'm crazy. Who will believe me?" "I will. Martha will. And we'll get others to believe too." In the following days, Robert Mendez worked tirelessly to build the case against Dr. Alistair. With Valerie's testimony and evidence of medical misconduct they managed to gather, they had a real chance of exposing the truth. The hearing was set for a rainy Friday in June. Benjamin arrived at the courthouse accompanied by Valerie, who had agreed to testify despite her fear. Martha had stayed home with Iris, shielding her from the stress of the proceedings. Dr. Alistair was there with an expensive lawyer, confident that his position as a doctor and Valerie's mental condition would work in his favor. But he hadn't counted on Valerie's determination. During her testimony, she was far more lucid than he expected. She described in detail the years of abuse, the forced medications, and the threats against Iris. The decisive moment came when Dr. Alistair's lawyer tried to disqualify Valerie's testimony, citing mental instability. "Your Honor," Valerie addressed the judge directly, "I pretended to be worse than I was to protect my daughter, but I won't pretend anymore. This man abused me when I was vulnerable and threatened my child. I need you to believe me." The sincerity in her voice was impossible to ignore. The judge granted temporary custody of Iris to Benjamin and Martha, while a criminal investigation against Dr. Alistair was launched. 3 months later, Dr. Alistair was arrested for sexual abuse and false imprisonment. The evidence collected revealed he had a history of predatory behavior with other vulnerable patients. With the danger finally gone, Valerie could begin proper treatment. Gradually, her memory began to return. Not completely, some damage was permanent, but enough for her to rebuild her life. Benjamin and Martha formalized the adoption of Iris, who finally had the stable family she deserved. Valerie moved into a small house near the mansion, where she could watch her daughter grow while continuing her own recovery. On a sunny December morning, almost a year after the encounter at the supermarket, the family was gathered in the garden of Valerie's new home. Iris played happily among the adults who loved her, her laughter echoing through the air like music. Martha, who was finally pregnant after years of trying, watched the scene with tears of happiness in her eyes. Benjamin had discovered that his true calling wasn't in television, but in helping families reunite. "Aunt Martha!" Iris ran to hug the woman she considered her second mother. "When the baby is born, I'm going to teach him how to draw birds." Valerie smiled, her green eyes shining with a lucidity she hadn't had in years. "And I'll sing the Yellow Butterfly song for him, just like I used to sing for you." Benjamin watched his reconstituted family, a family that was almost lost forever, but that love and persistence had managed to save. Sometimes, he thought, miracles really do happen when we least expect them. The sun set over Aspen, painting the sky gold as 4 adults and 1 child proved that true love can overcome even the deepest traumas, and that some families are destined to find each other no matter how many years or obstacles stand in the way. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment on what you thought of my story, giving it a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.